You found us through fly fishing. You'll stay for our passion and the community. Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
Yeah, but he doesn't get it. How come fly fishermen don't get it?
You only haul with the short power snap.
Look for where people walk and the insides of bends and hunt those.
The roof blew off and the interior walls got sucked out. And the trees are just coming up. And I mean, he's clearly not going to clear the trees.
It is not a fly fishing story. It's a story about me trying to understand my brother through fly fishing.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Before we get started, let's hear from our sponsor. Angler's Coffee roasts a full range of coffee with one goal in mind, delivering excellent coffee to every single angler. With a blend for every taste, a dry dropper on-the-go tea bag option, and a roast sampler, you know Joe at Anglers has you covered. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/anglers right now to support a sustainable company with unsurpassed taste. That's Anglers, A-N-G-L-E-R-S. Bearvault has the perfect solution to keep your provisions secure while heading into the backcountry this season. Bearvault builds a rugged polycarbonate locking canister that keeps bears and other wild animals away from your food. Proper food storage is one key to an epic trip in the backcountry. Please head over to wetflyswing.com/bearvault to check out this must-have solution for the outdoors now. You support this podcast and your safety this season by clicking through that link right now. We've been waiting for you. Follow our guests, follow us on Instagram, and share this episode and the love if you enjoy this podcast. And we are live in 3, 2, 1. How you guys doing today?
Great.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for coming on here. We've, you guys have a podcast that's been going on for quite a while, I think since 2013. I always love talking to other podcasters, especially in the outdoor space. And so we're going to dig into everything you have going with, Happy Camper Radio. And I know you guys have, lives on the other side of, Happy Camper. But let's first talk about the podcast. Why, and Skip, I know you were, I think, there at the very beginning. Where did this idea come to be? Why Happy Camper Radio? And why are you still going after 10 years? Because I know the work there is huge.
Well, let's start by going way back when I was much younger. I'm going to go back to, I think I was about 23 years old at that time. I actually built a small market FM radio station in Northwestern Pennsylvania. I had a financial partner. We built this thing with surplus equipment, but I had radio in my blood for a number of years. I ran that radio station for about 3 years, and it didn't really turn out to be a moneymaker for me. Most of our signal went out into the forest. We were entertaining the animals in the woods more than we were people. I came here back to Atlanta. I was here back in 1979 and 1980, but I decided I was going to come on back here. I went into law enforcement for a number of years and left that, went into television news for a little bit. But I have always had radio in my blood. And of course, when I saw what podcasting was all about, I said, wow, I got to jump on that bandwagon. So, yeah, I mean, I went ahead and I started out early with it. And I knew that if you're going to be a podcaster, you had to have something to talk about. And they always say, talk about something that you hold dear to your heart. And camping was one of those things. And here we are 10 years later. We just got a wonderful award from one of our callers that had been on the show a number of times. But, I'm thinking, wow, where did 10 years go? But it shows one thing when you're talking about something that you really enjoy and really love, like Daniel and I do. Here we are 10 years later, and we're still going strong with it.
Yeah.
There's always something to talk about in the world of camping.
Yeah, you're right. No, this is awesome. And I want to dig into that, what you guys talk about on your episodes. But Daniel, why don't you give us a little snippet? How did you come into the Happy Camper? How did this come to be?
So me and Skip were neighbors. I mean, he has another house, which I live next to now. And basically I would be talking about, we would just be talking because we were like family almost. I mean, I would go over to his house all the time. I I call his house the toolbox because I never had any tools. He'd be helping me and stuff, and like we were just super close neighbors. And I would mention podcasts, to him all the time. Oh, you should do this. You like this stuff. You should do it. He's like, I don't know. And then, one day it just clicked and he just went all out. And I was like, Skip, you're supposed to start with a laptop and like a little simple, microphone. He's like, nope, I'm going full out. And so, he did that. And, he had this desk in the corner of his bedroom, which had the worst acoustics in the world. And, we started doing shows and like, it was very echoey and I had all these ideas. And so like one day I came over with a quilt and I put it over my head. So that's like a running joke that's been going on for years. And I would talk under the quilt. And then eventually he set up his studio into another bedroom and it had carpet and we've got, soundproof and, the whole 9 yards and everything. And, we just started from there and just week to week, we would just go in and, at first, Skip wanted to be, like he said before, he was a radio guy and he likes to do things, in an order. And I was kind of the go with the flow kind of, whatever comes to mind kind of guy. And, it was kind of a struggle at first, but he kind of gave in after a while. And now we just pretty much kick it around and there's always something to talk about. And, it's just so smooth now. I mean, in the beginning, it was kind of weird, but like we got a rhythm and, it's just been great since then.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about it. You always say, you start out, don't listen to your first episodes because for everybody, they're going to suck. But as you go, as you keep working the muscle, that's the great thing about podcasting is that it gave everybody a chance. You don't have to be just, a television or some famous person to have a show. Like literally everybody on the planet can have a show now. And if you love your thing enough, then you're going to build an audience around it, which sounds like you guys have done.
We just did our 10th anniversary episode about a month ago. And what we did is we reached back into the files and we pulled out some classic clips that we had. Mm-hmm. And we sound a little bit different today than we did back then. But it was just really nice to take that one episode and just totally relive some of the past and what we did.
Right.
Yeah. And another thing is like, it has changed my life really, because like, we started doing shows and we're like, Skip was all about camping. And I was like, well, let's get into different stuff. I didn't know that much about fishing, but I always thought about, well, what if we did fishing? I was like, well, I like to hike. I like to look at the stars. Let's think about like maybe talking about hiking. Maybe we could find people to get on that are hikers. And so I was listening to this other podcast and they had little advertisements, but the way they did it was like you would pay like $10 to hawk your Kickstarter or your GoFundMe or something like that. Maybe you were writing a book or whatever. And so I was listening to another podcast I listen to a lot, and there was an advertisement for this guy that was hiking the Appalachian Trail, and he was trying to get money on Kickstarter to get his book up and running. And I joined his Kickstarter, and I was like, oh, maybe we should get him on. So we ended up getting him on, and the whole time he was hiking up the Appalachian Trail, he would call in to our 1-800 number and give us little updates after a while. And so that happened. He finished his hike. He came back. He came down here to Atlanta to visit us. He did a show with me and Skip. And so anyway, we're best friends with him, and he did his book in Skip's studios.
Oh, wow.
And so and now he's my best friend, and it's all because of the show. So it's just crazy like that.
It's amazing. I think that's what's really cool about the podcast is that, if you want to try to monetize it, and you could look at examples like Joe Rogan, who sold his podcast for like 100 million or 200 million, right? The rights for, I think literally for a couple of years. So, I mean, he's at the top, and there's lots of people doing that, but you don't have to monetize it. I mean, part of the podcasting that makes it great is it's like you guys just said, you just enjoy it so much, you enjoy camping, telling stories and talking to people. I mean, which is what I love too. And so how do you guys do that? Because I think that's one of the challenges some people have and, we have is choosing topics. How are you guys choosing them, like guests, all that thing? What does that look like as you look ahead, say the next 6 months?
Well, I'll say this, over the past 2 months, I have been getting emails left and right from people wanting to be on the show, and every one of them have had interesting topics of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a blessing to have new guests on the show. In fact, a couple hours from now, we have another call-in guest that's going to be calling in to record. I think it's going to be episode 266 at that time, Daniel. We just did 265.
Yeah, we've
right?
got like a back. I mean, we've never had like in the beginning, we would go like, I mean, we weren't like a week-to-week thing. We would, we tried the week-to-week thing, but like, life gets in the way or whatever. And we do, episode here and there. But like in the last year or so, I mean, we've got like 3 or 4 episodes banked right now, and we're doing like one today. We've been doing 1 to 2 like every single Sunday for the past few weeks, and it's just, I don't know, it's just popped off, and it always seems like that. It's like musicians. They'll have like their first 3 albums. They'll be out on the road. They've been touring. They've been doing this, and then something hooks, and then like, oh my God, y'all are awesome. I loved your first album. And they're like, that was our 7th album.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just crazy like that.
But, even though we were blessed to have the callers that we do right now, even when it slows down, Daniel and I will always come up with something to talk about. I've got a couple things in my memory bank right now that when that time comes, we'll just get behind the microphone and we'll go ahead and talk about it, and it'll open up some discussion.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about it with our show too, because I go into it. We usually have a guest, and so that makes it easier because we can dig into their specialty. But I'm also thinking of trying to keep it a little bit of an arc of the show, and I was thinking about this one today. One of those things, might be, I know you guys have looked at a lot of gear, camping gear, or even RVs. I was thinking, well, I'd love to hear, some of the top camping gear, because it sounds like you guys are into that. Is that something, are you more into the RVing, or are you more into the camping gear, like tent camping, or do you just kind of do everything?
Daniel and I are sitting here smiling, so looking at each other. Wow, because you opened up a can of worms here.
This is perfect. This is hilarious.
Now, let me start off by saying what's going to be a real surprise, and Daniel and I normally don't share this with our listeners, but we're talking camping. Him and I are together in the studio every week right now, practically. I mean, like I said, life does get in the way sometimes, and we have to, take a break here and there for this and that. But over the past 10 years, I can only think of a couple times, Daniel, when we actually went on a camping trip together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's like maybe 2 or 3 times. You would think because Daniel and I are into camping so much that we're out here at a campground, him and his wife and myself. And
I'd love to be.
Yeah. And that's not the case.
See, and I wouldn't think that from my perspective, not knowing all the details, I know where you guys are from and stuff, but I would think, one person could be in, Georgia, the other person could be in Canada, you could be just doing a podcast remotely, you're talking in, and that actually is interesting.
We did an episode one day from, I was down in Disney World at Fort Wilderness, and we did a little call-in show, and I did a little, roundup of, what was going on. But I thought what Skip was going to say was, so when we started the podcast, Skip was a tent guy. He was, I'm primitive. I do this. I bring anything but the kitchen sink. And I was pop-up guy.
Oh, wow.
Because I love pop-ups. I grew up with pop-ups. I have a pop-up. That's pretty much most of the time. That's the way I camp. But now recently, so last year, a very faithful camping trip we both took. We went down to the state park. It's called FDR State Park because they have the little White House down there, and that's where FDR would get his polio treatments back in the day. And it's still there if people want to see it. It's actually where he died. But anyway, so we went down there, and that's like my favorite place to camp. We had my mom on the other day, and literally I've been going there since before I was born because there's a picture of my mom pregnant with me, and she's at a campsite by the lake. So anyway, so we'd go down there, and Skip has this magical power of having the rain follow him everywhere he goes. I keep telling him to go out west because they're hurting out there.
Right.
But anyway, so we went down there. He got there earlier. He set up in the rain, and it was terrible, and he was just having the worst time. And so we were heading down later, and it let up just a little bit, and we were hustling. We got the pop-up, backed in. pulled up, bop, 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 like, everything, and then, ran in. But Skip had like the worst day in the world, and we didn't know anything about it. So, we were sleeping in our pop-up the other day. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see Skip. Oh, man, we're going to have breakfast with Skip. And we go over to his campsite because he's in the primitive area. We're in the trailer area. And he is mad. He is just like, I'm done. I'm done. This is the worst. This is the worst.
I'm done camping.
No. He's done tent camping.
Yeah, tent camping.
Tell us how that was, Skip.
Well, Daniel, actually what happened is I got there earlier in the day, like around 2:00, and it wasn't raining at that time. The temperature, it was hot.
Okay, that's what it was.
It was pushing at least 100 degrees. And I mean, even though I bring a lot of stuff, it took me about 3 hours to actually set up camp because I had to keep coming back inside the truck to cool off. And Sadie, my Labrador retriever, I kept her in the truck the whole time. And I'm saying, wow, can we at least get, some relief with this heat? And that was the wrong thing to ask for, because later on that night, I mean, the thunderstorms rolled in. And Dave, this was the icing on the cake right here, because practically every piece of gear that I brought got ruined.
Oh, wow. Did your tent get flooded?
Oh, the tent got flooded. Oh. My sleeping bag got flooded. There was no sleeping in the tent that night. And the next morning, Daniel, he's real anxious to see me coming on over for breakfast. And I'm already packing up, getting ready to leave.
Because we never, like I said before, we never camped before. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Because like Skip in the studio is one thing, but Skip at the campground, I don't know. It's like a kid in a candy store. He is so happy and he is just like in his element. But like, I was so bummed to see. So anyway, so he packs up and goes home and everything. And we stay there and, we do our thing and, and that's that. And then I think a couple weeks later, something happened. It wasn't
a couple weeks, Daniel. It was about 5 days later. Yeah.
Okay. So this guy, like, he is very meticulous. He plans stuff. He's I'm going to do this, but it's going to be 6 months. He's always had a 5-year plan. But this guy, go on, Skip.
All right. About 5 days later, of course, I'm still reeling over that.
The tent is still drying out, I think.
Everything. The tent was already in the dumpster.
Oh,
at that
boy.
Point. Yeah.
Wow.
The tent was totally ruined. Okay. And I mean, I was still upset about it at that point. But like I told Daniel when he got back, I says, that's it. I am done. I'm finished with the primitive camping. I'm not going to do it anymore. And I
didn't know what that meant. I was like, what?
Well, anyway,
what are we going to do at the show?
About 5 days later, I get Daniel on the phone. I said, Daniel, are you home today? He goes, yeah. I said, well, come on outside. Well, Daniel's already outside. I told him, I said, I've got something I want to show you. And he's looking over at my other house again. Skip, where you at? I don't see you. He's looking over the fence. And I said, Daniel,
knocking at the door and stuff.
All right. And I'm pulling up the road right in front of his house. All right. With my Ford F-150. And I got my brand new Transcend Xplor 200 MK RV.
Oh, wow.
Attached to my truck. Daniel went nuts. He just totally freaked out. Yeah. When I said I was done, I meant it. That was it. I was finished with the primitive lifestyle of camping.
Well, see, what I thought, because he loved the primitive lifestyle, and I was always like, well, Skip, you could get one of those hybrid things where it's like, it's a trailer and a pop-up, and, and you kind of same feel or whatever. But no, this guy went the total different direction. It was awesome. I love it.
Like the studio, either.
Yep, go big or go home.
Go home, yeah.
And he's got a nice trailer. Like, so we did an episode at a RV show a little while ago, and I went through a lot of trailers and everything, and like, I didn't really know anything about his trailer, but I went through a bunch of trailers, and they're made to be light and everything, but when I go through like the Grand Design area, they are the Cadillac of RVs. They are really well made, and I couldn't believe like the difference, because RVs always seem kind of cheap, but they're supposed to be that way for the weight and everything. But yeah, his is really nice.
So for those that don't know, on the camper, so the Transcend, so how many feet is this thing?
23 feet. They do make some larger Transcends, but I knew right off the bat before I even went to the dealership that there's only certain length and a certain weight of RV that I could tow with my truck.
Yeah, you got the same thing as me.
I do have an F-150, and you've got to be very conscientious about what you're going to tow. I mean, there's no way my truck could tow a fifth wheel. It's just impossible. I would have to have an F-250 or an F-350 for that matter.
Let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. Dette Flies, established in 1928, is the oldest family-run fly shop in the world. And you know I'm all about the history in fly fishing, which is one reason I am super stoked to have Dette on as a sponsor this year. Long before I made my first order with Dette, I remember hearing stories about the quality and the history and always wanting to connect deeper with them. So that time has come now, and I share the Dette tradition with you. Located in Livingston Manor on the banks of Willowemoc Creek, Dette is your welcoming place on the creek or online. Their retail and online shop have a large selection of flies, materials, fly gear, outdoor lifestyle items, books, and more. Dette Flies inventory consists solely of products that meet every angler's demand for highest quality and service. Of course, they offer fly fishing and casting lessons as well as guided trips. For more information, visit Dette Flies at wetflyswing.com/Dette or give them a call, 845-439-1166. That's wetflyswing.com/Dette, Dette. You support this podcast by clicking over through that link to Dette. Okay, let's get back to the show. That was the thing for me, is I'm kind of like you guys. I'm like the hybrid. I always love camping outdoors, but we did get a camper a few years back, and it's been nice to have, although the camper life becomes this whole thing where you really, you become in it, right? You got to take care of your camper, and it takes twice as long to get everywhere, it seems like, right? And gas, you get, what do you get, like 8 miles a gallon or something like that, 10 miles a gallon when you're driving?
Oh, I tell you, it's a gas guzzler. You know, when you're hooked up, it guzzles the gas. We just got back, the family and I did, from a trip to Mount Airy, North Carolina. It was our second trip up there. But I came up with my Transcend Xplor. My brother Dan came down with his Coleman RV, which is about the same length of mine. His is a little much lighter than mine. But, here's the funny thing, that when Daniel and I went on that camping trip down to FDR State Park, and like I says, I got there before he did, as I am driving through the park looking for my campsite, I see a camper there who had a Transcend Xplor. And it just, I said, wow, I would just love to have one of those someday. Not having any idea, 5 days later,
I remember you telling me about that too.
Yeah.
That's why I was so surprised when 5 days later you just pull up with it.
That's it. God, this is so good. So then Daniel, you have the smaller, like the pop-up, which is something I've always been interested in too, because I think the nice thing about the pop-up is that they're small, that you can just toss them on. Are they? Yeah. How does that compare? Do you still have the pop-up? Is that still your go-to?
Oh yeah, I love the pop-up.
Yeah. What's the disadvantage of the pop-up? I mean, obviously you have to pop it up, but it seems like a really cool deal because it's kind of like a tent, basically, right? It's like a tent on steroids.
I mean, if you know what you're doing, you could put it up as fast, if not faster than a tent. I mean, they have pop-ups now where it has an automatic crank up and but if you know what you're doing, you level it, you put, we've talked about this a lot of times. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It changed our life. It's called, I forgot. Dang it. I'll tell you later. But anyway, but it's a leveler, and it levels out the camper. And that's the thing that takes the longest to figure out. And, so once you get it leveled, you just pop it up, put it up, put the things up. I mean, it takes maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And is this something where on yours you have, because there's a bunch of different pop-ups, you've got how does a pop-up typically have? Does it have like 2 beds on each side and then the kitchen in the middle? Is that
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, they do have ones with one side, like they have ultralight ones that like you could tow with a car. And so this is crazy. Like I was a little kid, and like I said, I've grown up with pop-ups my whole life. So my parents, when I was growing up, they had like a StarCraft pop-up. It didn't have an air conditioner or anything, but it had like 2 queen-size beds or whatever. My mom pulled that with a 4-cylinder Honda Civic wagon.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
I didn't know anything about towing weights or whatever.
Oh, wow. And like 4 people, like the whole family in the car?
Yeah. And she would tell my dad to get out sometimes and push. I thought it was a joke, but like sometimes it was for real.
Wow. That's really cool. Well, that's back in the day, it's people that our parents were always tougher, right? It's always like that. They were way more badass than we are. But
Yeah.
good. All right, so we got the camper, and we might go down that road a little bit because I'm interested to hearing about like our camper we have as a pull behind, but I'm interested in hearing about more types of campers. But at least let's go back in the topic. So we've got all these topics coming in. I mean, let's think about the person listening to your podcast. It sounds like you talk to them a lot. Do you know who this person is? Are they mostly from kind of your neck of the woods? Or are they spread out throughout the country? Where are they coming from?
They're all over the place. Yeah.
A lot of West Coast, really. Like our number one fan, Rose, that gave us our little appreciation award. She's from out in California. She was a ranger out there, and she's just a wealth of knowledge in herself. And then we talked to another lady up in Washington who has her own personalized campsite that you can, it's just you or your family that can, be in the middle of the woods around nature. And you have it's a full hookup thing, but it's just you in nature. And, that was cool. And that was out in Washington. And I just love to hear about that part of the country and, how different it is from over on the east side.
Yeah, and there's a couple folks over in England that listen to our show as well. I mean, I've gotten some emails from them. Just not long ago, Daniel, we had the gentleman, the inventor of the car generator. Remember him?
Yeah.
He's from up in Canada. So, yeah, I mean, we're just blessed to have listeners just about everywhere.
I was just thinking about that the other day because we had a little outage in our neighborhood because there's this one power line that cut off the power because there's all this crap around it. And there was only 3 houses that were out. Every other house, was lit up. But if we would have had this car charger, the way it works is, you have your car on, you hooked it up to the battery, and they have a circuit breaker system that you can install in your house, and you can keep the lights and the air conditioning on in your house until, the power comes back on. And yeah.
Or you run out
amazing.
of gas. Yeah.
Yeah. You have your car, but that was awesome. I would love to get one of those one day. It's just cool, stuff like that. Just, and we get a lot of people with apps that talk about, different strategies.
Yeah, like where to camp and stuff like that.
Yep. And what's available and stuff. And it's really cool. I mean, we're learning along with, the people that listen to us. We're kind of just, along for the ride.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, if somebody is listening now, we have a lot of people listening that, everybody has a common thing. They're into fly fishing, but it's just all outdoors, right? Like you're saying, camping, hiking, cross country skiing, whatever it is, But if we're talking gear, are you guys kind of gear nuts? Do you know all the gear, as far as, it sounds like you're in the camper, so you probably don't need as much gear now, but do you do episodes on here's the newest, whatever, tent, all that stuff?
In the early stages of this podcast, we did. We did one on sleeping bags. We did one on type of blankets and pillows and stoves and what have you. Okay, but as far as the new stuff coming out, I mean, you can just probably go to Cabela's or Bass Pro and pick something and say, wow, hey, this is going to be a great topic. We can go ahead and do that. But there's so many other things about camping that we just jump right in. And
so I just found out what that thing was called. And this is a piece of gear that everyone, I think you can use it on RVs. I know we use it on our pop-up, but it's called a ball leveler.
Oh, ball leveler.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of those?
Yeah, I think I have heard of them. Yeah, ball leveler.
So those are the best things in the world to level out your RV. Basically, it fits underneath one of your tires, whichever tire you need to be going up, and you just jack that up, and it works perfect, and it stabilizes a lot. But as far as gear is concerned, like I said, I'm a big hiker now, and gear is everything when it comes to hiking and stuff. So I'm kind of the hiking gear person, and it's funny. So for hikers, the thing for Christmas is yeah, I got a pair of socks for Christmas. But for hikers, socks are the greatest in the world.
Right.
And so I was telling Skip, I was like, socks, man, they're the greatest. He's like, yeah, they're just socks. And so I bought Skip a pair of what were they called?
Dan something.
Darn tough
socks. Okay,
so, yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so these socks, you buy a pair. I mean, they're kind of expensive, like $15 a pair. You can get them at REI or an outfit or whatever. But you buy these socks, and if you get a hole in them from wearing them out, all you got to do is mail them back, or I think take them back to REI or wherever you got them. They'll give you another pair. You never have to buy a pair of socks again.
Really?
So if you bought 10 pairs of Darn Tough and wore them out, you can get a whole new pair.
That's amazing.
And he loves them. And so it's just like stuff like that. And just like, different kind of packs. We talk to people that know even more than I do. We actually had a guy that has an outfitter that's in Marion, Virginia, along the Appalachian Trail, and he's like a gear nut. He has this big TikTok page that talks about all kinds of gear and uses and stuff, and what's the best this, what is everyone using on the AT this year, what kind of sleeping bag's the best, down or synthetic. It's gear is everything when it comes to hiking.
It is, and it's light. That's the thing we've found, that we've had some episodes on hiking, and we've had our Bearvault is talked a lot about, on the podcast, but they, we had a couple episodes where they came on and talked about lightweight. One of them was like,
I have one of those actually.
What's that?
The Bearvault, I have one of those.
Oh, you do? Oh, nice. Yeah.
I love those. Yeah, because hanging the bag and everything, and that's just a pain in the butt. It's like, I don't even want to bring food because
I know.
I just want to bring a couple granola bars or whatever. Because I have this weird thing where when I'm hiking or when I'm just busy doing stuff, I'm not hungry. And like I said, I've done a lot of trips with the guy I met to the show, Gary, and we'll be walking and I am never hungry. I'm thirsty, but I'm really never hungry. So it's kind of weird. And I can never poop in the woods for some reason.
Oh,
I can't do it. I try. So I actually did it once when we first went on a camping trip. I did it one time where, hey, Skip, this is what hikers talk about. Hikers talk about poop and food. If you've ever been on a hiking podcast, they're going to talk about poop or food at one point in time. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I did it one time, and I haven't been able to do it since.
So what do you do if you're hiking and you can't poop?
No, then you hang around me, okay? And where you go inside your RV and you've got a toilet, you got fresh water, you got a septic tank.
No, actually, so I've never been on a trip longer than 3 days, and we were on this trail. It was called the Foothills Trail, and we were walking along, and it's a very gorgeous, gorgeous trail, and you can break off, and there's kind of like an area where regular people can park and watch the falls or whatever. And there was a bathroom there, and I was there for probably about 45
minutes. There you go. That's interesting.
So, that's what I do. And on the AT, actually, I've hiked a little bit on the AT, just not even knowing it really. But we did a part of this trail. It's called the Bartram Trail, and it intersects with the AT. And when me and Gary were going to start that little section, that was the section that intersects with the AT. And it was the first night that I was at a shelter. I've never been to a shelter before. And shelters have their own bathrooms and stuff. And I mean, it's not a bathroom. It's just a toilet it's just a hole in the ground, really.
You can sit, though. You can sit on something.
Yeah, that's all I need. Because there's so many people that hike the AT. I mean, you have to have something like that because, there'd be crap everywhere.
Well, I'll bet you money. I haven't seen this, but I'll bet you money there's an ultralight poop stool. I'll bet you there's something out there you can put on your pack.
Oh yeah.
But we'll find that. That'll be our next sponsor, the poop stool.
Yeah, that is a hyper luxury item though. But yeah, there is one. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, it is kind of funny that right now, with Daniel and I are kind of a world apart when it comes to camping, because he's more into backpacking now, which the time he was not. He bragged about his pop-up for a while, just like I did about my primitive gear. And now I'm all about the RV, and he's about backpacking.
Well, yeah, I got my tent and everything. It's just the thing about it is Skip is go get there, relax, zen, whatever. He's in his element. But we're get there, set up. Okay, cool. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do this. And we're just hard charging. And the thing about backpacking is that's pretty much what it is. I mean, sitting around and, kicking it is fun and everything. And you do that. But 80 to 90% of the time you're going, you're doing, you're looking, you're like, oh, what is that? You're taking pictures, you're looking at waterfalls, you're looking at bugs, you're looking at all kinds of stuff.
I think when Daniel gets into his retirement years, he's going to probably jump aboard my boat.
Right. Right. Well, the cool thing about it, here's what I find, you guys, you probably see, I think that's what you're describing, is that It's the same thing with fly fishing or anything. You know, you have this evolution where you start at one place and you do this thing, and then as you go, you evolve. And I found myself doing the same thing where I'm not doing the same things I used to do. Same with the camper. I never would have thought I would have had a camper back in the day because I love the hiking and outdoor and tent stuff. But now that I have it, it's like, well, it is kind of fun. You know, it's an experience. And I think everybody here listening probably is the same way, right? You never know, where are you going to be in 5 years? You might, Skip, you might get rid of your camper and you turn into the tent guy again. All right. Maybe not.
I doubt that. I doubt that, because even though that I have an RV now, the rain still follows me just about everywhere I go now. And I'm done with sleeping in a tent because we're here in the South. And I mean, the South is you get wet down here a lot. You just get bombarded with rainstorms and I can't do it no more. I just can't. I mean, doesn't mean I still don't love it. And I would love to be able to go out there and do it. But now that I've got an RV and I've had it for a little over a year now, I'm just having a great time going out whenever I possibly can. And I take my dog with me. And my whole key thing is I'm going to camp by a lake. Okay. I'm not going to be in the middle of the forest. I've got to be by the lake.
And that's just because you just the beauty of sitting on a lake.
Yep. The beauty, the relaxation, all of it.
There you go. Well, maybe over time we'll convince you to throw in get you into the fly rod. We'll see if there's some fish jumping out there, and then you can throw some of those on the frying pan.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. And I tell you, I've got my griddle with me, so yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell me this, Skip. So we got a little bit of thing going here. I love the list stuff. So we got a few items going that are great. I love the darn tough socks for sure. What's the item? You're in your camper. You've got this 23-foot camper. What is the must-have RV other than what what Daniel was saying? Anything else you throw out there? Because I would love to hear some tips on RV products I need.
Well, the whole thing about buying an RV. And like I said, I knew I wanted a grand design because I just fell in love with the Transcend. And that wasn't the first time I saw it when I was down there at FDR State Park. But what you've got to do is you got to be a careful shopper, first of all. You got to look inside all of the RVs. There's many brands, many models out there. You got to find out, first of all, you got to be able to tow this thing. All right. If you don't have the right vehicle to tow it with, then you're just wasting money.
Well, check this out and tell me if this is true, Skip. When we got our camper about 6 years ago, I went in there and we had this old Honda Pilot. And it was kind of the same thing, Daniel, like your parents. We went in there and we were like, okay, what can we tow with this thing? And the guys were like, hey, this 20-foot, Jayco, no problem. And I don't know, I felt like it was a little overloaded on the Honda Pilot. Do you feel like sometimes the places get you into something you can't handle, or is there a way to make sure you get the right one?
Well, the Ford trucks are very tough. I mean, I've always had a Ford truck. This one is, even with this vehicle that I have, I've got my RV pretty much packed with everything I need. I mean, it's got some dry goods in there. All I got to do is load stuff in the refrigerator, and I'm good to go. Throw a bag of clothes in there. But, I've got stuff in the storage compartment, camping-related all stuff, my septic hoses and my freshwater hoses, things like that. I think I'm about maxed out as far as the towing capacity goes, that I can do with this particular truck. But one of the important things to see is when you get inside of an RV and before you even sign on the dotted line, you got to take some time to sit in there. Okay. And look at the layout. I mean, the layout is very, very important. You're going to be able to get into this thing with no problem at all. You're going to feel comfortable with the sofa that they have in there, because some of them are really cheesy, really cheap, and the kitchen setup, everything about the Transcend Xplor to me was just perfectly. It had my name written all over it. And I said, this is going to be the one. Yeah. And I love every minute of it. Every time that I can get out there, it's got a slide on it that, that really opens up the space on the inside of the RV. Even on the hottest day, you got to pump that air conditioner. I tell Daniel all the time, I just wonder how I would have reacted if I had this Transcend down there at FDR State Park as opposed to the tent. Yeah, I would have stayed. I probably would have slept real good with that rain pounding down on the roof of the RV in the middle of the night. But, I wouldn't have had any gear ruined or anything like that. I've gotten smart, though. I started buying weatherproof covers to put over things on the outside. Like I've got a table out there that I've got my griddle on. I've got these portable butane stoves. And they can get wet just like anything. But I went on to Amazon here and I said, look, since I've got rain following me now, I just go ahead and throw this cover on before I before I even start hearing thunder. And then I don't have to worry about it no more. I don't have to worry about any of my gear getting ruined from this point forward.
Right. And is the camper, is it so like a queen bed up front and it's got bunk beds, all that stuff?
No bunk beds. It's got a queen size bed. And anybody interested in buying an RV, I can tell you this much. Make sure that you get yourself a mattress topper. Or if you want to go ahead and spend maybe $600 or $700, you can get an RV mattress, because just about every manufacturer who puts together an RV is going to put the cheapest mattress in there. And you're going to wake up with back problems if you're not careful.
Oh, so even when you get a nice one and they have literally there's a bed in there, that's usually a cheap bed.
You just got a mattress. Yeah, that's all it is. A foam mattress of some sort. It's not comfortable at all. You've got to pay very careful attention to that. I went ahead and I spent probably close to $100 on the mattress topper that I have. And I sleep better in the RV than I do my own bed at home.
Right. Yeah, me too. That's awesome. Okay.
There's a piece of gear that so I think you can maybe kind of use it with the RV, but it's the Swiss Army knife of pop-up camping, and that's pool noodles.
Oh yeah, pool noodles
are very important because they can act as a gutter system on the top. You can put them under your awning to get the water. Like, pool noodles have so many different uses and stuff. And also, so the latest pop-up we bought, it was a used pop-up, and they had these, they're kind of like the reflectors. So like one is silver and one is dark, and you put it over like one of the sides of the pop-up. So like in the heat, it would reflect off. And then in the winter, you would just turn it over and it would keep the heat in. And you just put it over like one of the sides of the pop-up. And that's like a little thing that's kind of cool.
So the noodles, that's a good one. So this is good. I think we got a few items here. I keep going back to the socks because I'm a big sock guy too. I feel like I remember this trip we had. We hiked into Hell's Kitchen.
Injinjis. Have you ever had Injinjis?
What are they called?
Injinjis?
No. How do you spell that?
Oh yeah.
Well, Daniel's looking that up. I can tell you this: those darn tough socks. I have had them on inside the RV. I've had them on outside the RV, because when I get to a campground, I also have this big patio mat that I roll out. So I don't have to have shoes on when I go out there. I've got my recliner seat. But wow, those darn tough socks, they help make the camping trip. They really do.
Okay, so they're spelled Ingingi, and they're toe socks, but they're amazing. So you said you were like a camp or a hiker or whatever, and like they have like very, very thin ones that you would put like under your darn tough, so blisters are not a thing. So I don't know if you have like your toes rubbing together or whatever, but I have kind of an issue with that. And it feels kind of weird at first, but once you get used to it, you'll never go back. Injinjis and toe socks.
Today's episode is sponsored by Togens Fly Shop. Togens Fly Shop provides superior quality products at a great price. They have also a great YouTube channel that you can check out right now with new flight tying tutorials each week. Togens also has you covered if you're looking for unique in-house products, and they also support many of the great brands out there that you know and trust. It's been fun connecting with Justin and the family over the years now, and it's been really cool. Great local fly shop. Togens is also offering their fly tying box, where they send out materials at a regular cadence where you don't even have to think of it. You just open the mailbox and there's your Togens pack. And I recently made an order through Togens, and the experience is always perfect. They've got you covered if you ever have questions or need any help, whether that's a YouTube tutorial or connecting with them personally. Since 2005, Togens has been over-delivering on customer service, and it's time for you to check out Togens Buzz for yourself. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/Togens right now to check out their diverse selection of products today. You support this podcast by clicking through that link to Togens online. That's Togens, Togens. Okay, back to the show. That was the story I was going to mention there, was that we did this trip into Hell's Canyon. It's the same thing in this remote canyon, and after the first day, we didn't realize what we were getting into, but most of us had blisters all over our feet. And one thing I did, I had a new pair of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't thinking,
so I had to do that.
No, new pair of boots, and weren't broken in, so I was worked in, and we were out of water in Hell's Canyon, and it was just this nightmare. It turned out to be a fun trip. But yeah, the toe socks, so that's good. Keep your blisters away. That's a huge part of it. Keep your, essentially, from rubbing together. Okay, so we got the sock. This is going to be like I think a commercial for REI, which I love REI. So do you guys have out in your neck of the woods? What are the outdoor stores out there? Yeah.
We got REIs, and we got mom and pop places around, and we're not too far from the mountains, and they've got a bunch of outfitters along the AT and stuff, and that, but it's mainly REI. I mean, we have Bass Pro and Cabela and all that, but as far as hiking is concerned, it's pretty much REI.
It's REI, so that's the big one out there. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's.
Yeah. And as a Metro Atlanta, you can find just about anything.
Oh yeah, you guys are in the. Yeah, it's huge.
They have outdoor places too. They have mom and pop. I think Blue Moon, I think, is on the east side of Atlanta, but they have little individual places too.
Okay, this is great. Well, I want to hear a little bit. We mentioned this or kind of before we got going, just on your tech. I always love hearing the podcast tech because I love helping other people get into it. More podcasters. But talk about that a little bit. I know, Skip, you have this radio. Is that pretty much what we have here? Describe how you guys typically record your episodes.
Well, it's kind of funny. For the past 10 years, we started in the corner of a bedroom. Then we went into a separate bedroom at this residence next to Daniel. And now, since I moved away from there, I've got even a bigger studio. So we've moved 3 different times. But we've got state-of-the-art gear today. I mean, broadcast quality gear that we use to deliver our podcast.
We have a lighting package.
You do? Oh, right, because you guys do video.
Yeah, we got 4 cameras here in the studio, and we got you got a lighting package, like we said. And you even got on-air lights. I mean, we're first class here.
Right, so people can go to YouTube and actually see you guys.
They can actually just go to YouTube and in the search engine put Happy Camper Radio, and you'll see any number of our episodes there. And once you see it, we tell Daniel all the time, look for that little red box right down here in the corner with a pup tent inside of it. Okay, you click on that and you'll be a subscriber to the show. And you can actually see us do the show. Of course, we've been podcasting a lot longer than we have YouTube. So, just about in any one of the major podcast directories, you can find Happy Camper Radio.
Yeah, I'm interested in this because the YouTube is a whole nother level. What is the benefit, or what do you guys enjoy about having YouTube, the video, versus just like we're doing now with just audio?
Well, if you're sitting around and you've got nothing to do, that's what you can go on YouTube. I mean, YouTube is one of those things, if you got a desire to see something. Like lately, for some reason, being the fact that I'm a retired law enforcement officer, I get on YouTube and I look at these car chases. And I shouldn't do that now. And of course, I like to see what the newest RVs are out there. And, then that's what YouTube is for. And, we utilize that platform for Happy Camper Radio. So, if you want to see Daniel and I in the studio, if you've been listening to us for any number of years in the podcast world, you can actually see us do the show.
And are you saying that seeing you guys is as interesting as watching a police car chase or close?
I think we're a little more interesting, Daniel, aren't we?
No.
Well, it's funny you said that, Skip, because the other day, I don't do a lot of the YouTube stuff like that, but I found a car chase, and I watched it for probably 5 minutes. And it was this police officer going 140, chasing a guy in a whatever car, going the same thing, 140, 150, just through traffic. And
I actually shouldn't watch that, because when you see police chasing somebody and you can see it on their camera, that they're going 140 miles an hour. That's scary.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. You know what I thought was, I was like, you know what? I mean, I know he's a police officer, but it seemed like it was kind of endangering the fact that they're going 140 through traffic in and out of the freeways. It was like, wow, maybe, I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe let the guy go. I don't know.
Well, you got to consider how fast the perpetrator is going too.
He was going just as fast. He was skilled.
Just as fast. And what a lot of people don't realize is, you got to get people like that off the road.
Right. Yeah. You can't let them.
That's why today, they train to do these hit maneuvers, and, where they can actually spin them out.
Oh, spin them out, take.
Yeah. I mean, I hate it in a way because, I haven't been a law enforcement officer for almost 16 years now, but I would hate to be out on the middle of the highway and be caught up in one of those situations. I really would.
Skip, we tell them, Skip used to be on Judge Hatchett too.
Judge Hatchett.
I don't know if you ever watched the Judge Hatchett show. It's
It's like one of the Judge Judy shows.
Oh, really? Judge Hatchett? No, I don't remember Judge Hatchett.
He was on a couple of these Scared Straight shows.
That's
It
going
is
way
amazing.
back in the day.
It is so much fun to watch. I don't know have you put those on to digital yet?
No.
He gave me a bunch of VHSs one time, and there were like 2 or 3 episodes of the Judge Hatchett show. And, you got all these hoodlums, and then you got Skip. He's a big old, he's like, 6'3", 6'4", 280 pounds or whatever. And he's got his little sheriff's hat on, and he's like, oh, is this what you want? Is this what you want? And he's got him in there with all the prisoners, because he used to work at the in a prison, and it's just so cool to see all the different sides. Yep.
There it is. Yeah, that's so cool. All right. So got Judge Hatchett in here now. I'll have to look up some past episodes of that. But you guys, so you do the YouTube, and then maybe just talk about, your show. It sounds like, you're not, like growth and all that stuff. Do you look at the numbers? Do you see a difference between, do you guys have goals, stuff like that? Or is that something that you're not super focused on?
No, the numbers fluctuate. I really don't pay them too much mind. I can say this much, for as much as I put into this whole operation, between the podcasting, the ideas, the guests, and the equipment and everything, I probably could do a little more marketing than I already have. All right. And maybe one of these days I'll do that.
Yeah.
But, it's the fun part about what we're doing. That's the whole purpose of Happy Camper Radio. We're doing because it's fun.
I think the biggest pay for me is just like relationships with different people, just learning stuff from different people, getting to know people. And, sometimes it turns out that, they become best friends or whatever. And like, that's the biggest pay that I've gotten out of this is just, you have this little microphone to the world, and you don't know what's going to come back. And it's just awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's for me too. I love the relationship. The podcasting is great for that, because especially if you do an interview show, and we've created like a travel, program around the country now. So, and we probably will be coming to your neck of the woods as well, because I'm trying to put together these trips from all over the best places in North America. And
we're right next to Stone Mountain. So,
okay.
Yeah, I never envisioned back in my radio days that there ever would be such a thing as podcasting, because we're going back in the early 80s. You never even heard of internet. Computers were just starting to become on the market, and people were wondering, what are these things? What is a mouse?
Right.
Well, it's funny. Like, like when I was a little kid, we'd have like these little tape recorders and stuff, and we would just do stuff with that. And that was probably the closest thing to podcast that there were back then, just playing record on your tape player and, just talking or whatever, and then listening back. You're like, oh my gosh, is that how I sound? Oh my gosh, that's weird.
Right.
Because I remember there's a tape of like when I was a little kid, and I don't know if anyone else has done this, but my parents would like be talking to me, and they'd want me to say all these things, and I said it all weird and stuff.
Right.
One of the things I'm really surprised about, considering podcasting was already well on its way by the time I jumped on board.
What year was that when you jumped on board?
Our first show was in 2013.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's when we actually started doing Happy Camper Radio. I'm really surprised that, being podcasting like it is today, that you didn't have the government coming in and trying to regulate it. Back in the days of radio, even radio today, as we know it, AM and FM, they're licensed through the FCC. And I'm really surprised that, the United States government didn't jump in there and say, hey, we want to control this. You want a podcast, you got to get a license through us.
Right. Well, what's going on here, and you do have some government stuff out there. But the cool thing about podcasting, you just hit it on the head, is that it's independent. There is no control. In fact, there's some movements within Adam Kroll. There's some huge podcasters out there that are doing stuff to keep it independent, because, like that. But that's why podcast is great, is that anybody can do it. There's really, limited regulation on what you can do. And so I think that's the beauty of it, right?
I'm not trying to sound like I'm anti-government here.
No.
Daniel has me as the Ron Swanson lookalike. If you ever watched Parks and Recreation, you see Ron Swanson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much Skip.
Ron Swanson, right. Good. Well, did you know there's I think there's a podcast for that show too. There's a podcast for every show.
Oh, yeah.
But, well, let's, there's two big topics here I want to dig into. I've been thinking podcasting, obviously we're on this track. What are some of your, I think maybe Daniel, will go to you first because it sounds like you listen to a lot of podcasts. What are your, like right now, if we were to open up your podcasting app, what are the last 5 podcasts, you listen to?
It changes from, I kind of go in waves. I'll sometimes do a lot of, like information podcasts, like a bunch of, um, I can't really name the podcast off my tip of my tongue, but it'll be like there's one, you might know what it is, but it's like it's a show that's basically you can't find the answer to this question, and people will call in and they'll ask the question of like, what is this song by this guy I heard at this place? And it goes da 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 or whatever. And like they'll research and research and research, and they'll actually like find the guy and do the thing. And then there's like some tech podcasts where there was this one, I wish I knew the name of these things.
What's your app? What do you listen to your podcasts on? What app?
Podcaster. It's like $9 a month, but it takes out all the quiet parts and it'll speed it up when it needs to, and you can cut like the 30 seconds on front or the end.
Do you listen to podcasts on your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you listen to it, and it's called Podcaster?
Hold on, let me go to it. But this other one was a tech podcast where like they went after this scammer in India, and they actually went over to India, and they were like, they found him and like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And he like tells his life story and stuff. And it's just, crazy stuff like that. And, I like politics. I'm into politics and stuff, and I like to listen to both sides and stuff. And, I get pretty worked up about that. It's just anything to take my mind off of working. And I don't know if I've told you what I do, but I'm a mailman.
Yeah.
So it's like, anything to take my mind off. And actually, I love podcasts and everything, but I think the thing that I love more than anything is audiobooks. When you get a good audiobook, you don't even feel like you're working. You are just in that environment, and it just flies by, and it's the greatest thing in the world. I love audiobooks.
Yeah, that's right.
And actually, I used to listen to a podcast that was like audiobooks. It was like a week-to-week audiobook, and it would be like 15, 16 weeks of just little snippets of podcasts.
That's good. I'm a big audiobook fan too. I'm currently listening to the Noticer, The Noticer, which is an interesting book by Andy Andrews. But I think, that's the cool thing about whether it's audiobooks or podcasts. It's just the on the go, right? You can download it. You can listen to it like you're doing whether you're working or,
Overcast. That's what it's called. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Or I'm saying, that's my favorite app. Yeah. Overcast is great. Yeah.
Overcast. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I really love Overcast. Well, here's a podcaster tip. I love Overcast, especially new podcasters, that you can download any audio file onto it. So I download when our editors.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. And we haven't even talked about I also listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, which is a lot of fun.
Give us a comedy, because I love comedy. Give us one comedy podcast on your feed right now.
Well, I love Tuesdays with Stories with Mark Norman and I can't remember the other guy.
That's good. We got it. I love a new podcast. I'm always looking for a new podcast, so I'll look that one up. How about you, Skip? Are you?
Joe List.
Yeah.
Joe List is the guy. It's Mark Norman and Joe List. And then I listen to another podcast. It's called We Might Be Drunk, and that's another one with Mark Norman and I can't remember the other guy.
Yeah.
I went to see him at the Tabernacle the other day, but I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah. And for myself, I mean, I'm not really out there surfing for podcasts for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm retired. All right. And I try not to talk about that too much in front of Daniel, because he's still got about another 16, 17 years of work to
14.
do. Okay. It's down a little bit since we last discussed it. No, but
Yep.
My time here is outside the studio. I get the show in post-production, and we're dealing with YouTube. And I mean, I've got a really elaborate editing software out here. It's just outside the studio, and it's very relaxing to me. I mean, I love to edit. It's probably one of the best hobbies I could ever have. Outside of that, I mean, it's myself, my dog, my RV, and that's pretty much it. And camping, of course.
Right. And camping. That's it. No, I think the editing is great. I think I did it for a long time until transferring it out, but it is I enjoy the editing. Good. So we've hit on a little bit of what's that?
We Might Be Drunk is with Mark Norman Samaral.
Okay.
I felt so bad I couldn't remember his name. That's another thing about podcasts. It's like your brain goes to mush when you're talking to people. You're like, yeah, this and this. And you're like, you can't even remember your mother's name sometimes.
But that's what's great about it. Yeah.
Well, it's really hard with Skip because I try to make it as easy as possible with him. And I try not to stumble or whatever while I'm talking to him because I know he has to do a lot of editing. But like, and I see this with a lot of people. Like, I don't know if you listen to podcasts, but they'll be like, yeah, I was going to the store, the one with the star, or the one with the circle and the other circle. And I'm screaming into my phone. I'm like, Target? How do you not know Target?
Right.
But it's so weird that like when you're doing this, your brain kind of goes to mush.
Yeah, it is fun. I think, like we said at the start, the conversation is good. And I think editing, I have another podcast I do in the marketing space, and I've interviewed some big names there. One of them was the guy that created podcasting for NPR and back in the day, the first.
Oh yeah, that was where a lot of the ones I listened to. Back in the day, I listened to Serial.
Yeah,
that was the big one. And then I listened to this one. It was about this guy in Alabama. He was S-Town. I think it was called S-Town. That was another one. It was about this guy in Alabama. He was like they thought it was going to be one thing, but it turned out that they just delved into his whole life. And he was a big watch guy, and he was like the greatest watch maker around. And that's a really good podcast, S-Town. It's a complete thing. And then my wife, she listens to probably more podcasts than me. She's a big Reddit stories person. She loves Reddit stories because we go on road trips all the time. And she listens to this other podcast. It's called Too Scared Didn't Watch. And it's about like people that are interested in horror movies, but they don't want to watch them because they don't want to get nightmares. So like one of the people on the show watches it, and they kind of just do a breakdown of the whole movie. So the people that don't want to watch it, like listen to her synopsis. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, that is awesome. No, I think we'll be, and we have show notes going. So we'll have in the show notes links to everything we're talking about here. And I was trying to track down that episode, but basically the guest said on that, I asked him, what is the number one thing to make your podcast better? And at the time I wasn't doing this as much, but he said by far, editing, the more time you put into cleaning it up, you're going to make your podcast better, right? I mean, that was like his one big tip on top of just being very curious about your topic, right? Which it sounds like you guys are.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like it raw though. I mean, I listen to some podcasts where, they'll be stumped, like thinking about something for like 10, 15 minutes, but it's just like, I just feel like I'm listening in to a phone call, and it's just, editing is great and everything. It's nice. But like when it's like that, it just feels so raw, and you feel like you're so connected to the people. So it's like, it depends on what you want.
Yeah.
With our equipment here that we have in our studio, I mean, we edit video, Daniel. As far as the audio goes, I mean, it's start to finish.
You don't edit the audio?
I'll say this, in the early stages of Happy Camper Radio, yes, I was cutting out a lot of stuff. But Daniel and I have done it so much now, and the equipment that we're using today is more professional than the equipment we back at him. It's very, very clean. I don't do any audio editing, none whatsoever. I mean, it's just which we hear in the studio, that's what you hear out there.
Oh, wow. So you don't do audio editing, but why do video editing?
Well, because we're doing several different camera angles. When you actually see Daniel and I on the YouTube video, we do what's called a double box. This is going to be Daniel on the left side of the screen, me in on the right side. Then we've got two different cameras aimed at us. So sometimes we switch cameras, and that needs to be edited. Anytime that we have a guest on the show, we do a triple box where we actually have the guest's picture inside the center box, because our listeners and our viewers want to be able to relate to who's talking. So we always have a picture of that individual there. So, yeah, I mean, all that stuff, it takes time, it takes editing, but it's real clean. I mean, it's something that I'm proud of. I'm very happy to do. And I've got an episode coming up here right now, Daniel, and I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. We had your mother on the phone, on the show here.
Yep, we did.
Yeah, and it's, we had you can see where Daniel gets his camping from.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, like me and Skip, we're family. I mean, he's come over for Thanksgiving. I've come over to his house for Thanksgiving. I mean, we're pretty much family. And like, I've known Skip for a long time, but like, so a few years ago, I lost my dad, and it's kind of like, I mean, not necessarily, it wasn't supposed to happen, but I've kind of like adopted Skip as my surrogate dad since my other dad was gone. And we just do all kinds of stuff and hang out, and, I borrow his tools, and he helps us, he helped us, he helped us install our fridge or our microwave, our dishwasher. I mean, anytime we need help with lifting stuff, and like if we had to get a mattress out of his house and get it dumped, and I helped him do that. And it's just, I mean, we're family. I mean, that's really what it is.
And and what Daniel said is very important. I mean, family is everything. And a lot of times, camping keeps family together.
It does.
And I honestly believe that. But take advantage of any opportunity you can go camping with your family, because things can happen, things can change at a split second, and the person that you loved and cared about very dearly is not going to be there. Daniel lost his dad. I lost my wife to stage 4 cancer back in 2013. My oldest daughter was murdered 2 years ago.
Jeez.
And the youngest daughter just can't seem to stay out of jail. So, I mean, but I'm okay. I'm all right. I could have it worse. I wouldn't wish what I've been through on anybody. But if I didn't have camping, if I didn't have, friends like Daniel, I'd be a basket case. I really would. So, what I'm doing today with Happy Camper Radio, the camping world, my Labrador, who I love, Derry, she's laying right here by my feet right now. I mean, I think I've got the world here. This is what's keeping me going, and this is what's keeping me happy.
Amazing. I think that's a perfect place to wrap this thing up, because I think it's the family. I think that's the podcasting. That's what people love about it. You said it, Daniel, yourself. It's that listening, being right there next to that person, and having basically like a friend. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I think about people listening right now. We've built this relationship over the last 6 years, and you guys have done the same. So, and hopefully we're doing the same today with you guys. I want to keep in touch with you.
Oh, yeah.
And stay in touch, moving ahead. But give us a heads up just as we head out of here in the next, say, it's kind of mid 2023. Anything you want to give a shout out in the next 6 months to a year or so that you got coming? Anything different, or are you just going to keep publishing more of the same good stuff?
We're just rolling week to week. I'm hoping to get more camping in. I've got other property right now. The one Daniel was talking about that he's next to, I'm getting ready to put that on the market for sale. And that's taking some time away from my camping right at the particular moment. But after that's gone, I mean, I've got plenty of time to get out there and enjoy myself. And the fact that we've got so many episodes already in the can here, they're ready to be published. I mean, that's going to give me some time when I need a break to actually go out here and enjoy camping a little bit. And I'm going to do more podcasts from the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got the perfect spot. The camper is a great studio.
Yeah, we got a mobile setup. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we do. We have a mobile unit that we take out, when we go camping, that we can actually do a show. In fact, the neat thing about it, having a Grand Design RV is now I can get into these rallies, because there are Grand Design rallies all over the country, and I've already got booked for 2 of them. I've got in 2024, I'll be going to the rally in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and also the ones down in Brunswick, Georgia. So, I'll be out there, and I'll be taking the Happy Camper Studio with me. And, the nice thing about the internet is there are ways that you can stay in touch. Even though I might be able to have Daniel right here with me at the time, because he's still a working man, would love to be retired. I can get him on the horn, and we can go ahead and do our podcast like we were doing it right here in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the other great thing. Nice. Well, I think that sounds good. We'll send everybody out to Happy Camper Radio, and I guess that's happycamperradio.com, best place so they can check in on everything you guys have going.
Yeah, that's it. And you can check out any one of our episodes dating all the way back to 2013.
Amazing. Yeah, you guys are at literally the beginning of, pretty close to the beginning of the podcast. I don't remember the exact date, but it was somewhere in there where you got in early. So this is great to hear. All right, guys. Well, I'll leave it on that. And thanks again for all the time today. And we will definitely look forward to keeping in touch with you moving ahead.
All right. Sounds good, Dave. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
That is a wrap. You can grab all of the show notes at wetflyswing.com. And please follow us on Instagram and share this episode out with someone you love. Please send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com, if you have any feedback or want us to put together an episode on this podcast for you. Check in anytime. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and would love to meet up with you on the water. We have new fly fishing schools going all year long and all around the country, so if you want to connect, let's do it right now. All right, time to get out of here. I hope you have a great evening. I hope you have a great morning or great afternoon wherever in the world you are, and I appreciate you for stopping by and checking out the show today. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.